status. It uploads it to the server and then redraws the table here. So, and that's the thing we did last time, was we added some jQuery event listeners to these checkboxes, which allows that to happen. So what I'm going to do today is maybe two things, maybe one, depending how long it takes. But really, we're kind of at the polish stage now, where the functionality is there. There's some security things I want to talk about in another video, which will be the last video, where actually if you're not logged in and you can still get to this page, it doesn't tell you need to log in, and it's pretty easy to add that, but I'm going to do that in the last video. So the functionality is all there that we want. What's missing is a little bit of like I don't know, like polish. So when an item is done, it would be nice if it was crossed out, which is the style should change if an item's completed. And the other thing is that I like this progress bar up here, so we're going to try and add one of those ourselves. That's the two things we're going to do. So we're going to start with the styling. So I'm going to stop this. The way I'm thinking of doing this is to define a CSS class that's going to be our like completed item, and that's the style we want that to be. And that will define in one of the CSS files that is part of our web application. And then what we'll do is we're going to add some logic here in our partial view. Remember, this is our to-do table partial view. So this is what builds the table here. And the way that this is building it, this is Razor. It's a mix between C# and HTML. And this @ symbol is telling us we're switching from HTML to C#. So we've told it the model we're expecting is a list of to-dos. And then here, which is where the table is built, we do a for each item in our model, and we write down the description and we add the checkbox, and then we add these action links for like edit, details, delete. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get rid of the details because we don't need that. We'll leave the delete in there. That'll be fine. Right, so yeah, so it loops through and it makes these. Now what we want to do is we want to say, well, if this item is done, we want this description to be crossed out. And so we'll add the CSS class to this display, this text. And we'll do that by putting it into a div and giving that div the class that we set up. So let's set up the class first. Now, where is the CSS content? There we go. Right. Okay. I always forget where this is, but what you're seeing in all of these pages are using Bootstrap templates, which is why you see this Bootstrap CSS, and we're actually going to use a Bootstrap progress bar later on. But for now, that's why you see this, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to open up the site CSS, which is like just another CSS file that's loaded, and I'm going to put my own custom class in here. You could make your own CSS file if you wanted, and then load that in the to-do table in the index page. but I'm going to put it in here because this will load as well, and it will work. So we want, I'm just going to put a comment in, styling for to-do items. We could, if we wanted to, make classes for like not done and done. But we're just going to put completed to do. So the point, remember, using the full stop here means we're referring to a class. So it could be any element that has this class will have this. And to do a strike through, it's text decoration line through. That's all we need to do in there. I'm going to put that here so we remember what it's called. And then we need to tell this to put this display into a div with this class if it's done. So we just need an if statement. So we can do if item is not done, then we want it to be the same as it is now. Completed to do. Notice the IntelliSense has picked that up, which is a nice feature. And then we put this, if I got that selected yet, in there. Now what this is showing you is how nice Razor is to work with, because it's really clever at figuring out where the C# ends and the HTML begins. So it sees I've put this at, and I've got this C# if statement. This at again is actually changing it. Well, we've then got HTML here, but it's with this HTML helper using the at HTML. It's I've got a double in there. So I could, if I wrote this, it wouldn't display. It would run that in C# and not do anything. But we want the helper to actually run that in C# and not do anything. But we want the helper to actually render the HTML. So we do it as if I'm writing up here. Don't worry too much about that. That's probably a bit more confusing than it needed to be. So then we're back into the if statement. We're writing just normal HTML here. It knows that. It knows the symbols. It knows when it's right. This is HTML, and then we put in the helper. So this, in theory, should work. So let's do it. Right, that hasn't worked. Why is that? Let's have a look at our tools and look at the console, at the elements, I mean. Again, this is like for debugging, this is really useful. So let's find one that's done. What have we got? Div class equals completed to do. Well, it's done it, but it hasn't styled it. So let's have a look. It hasn't got... Not sure why that didn't work. Right, let's have a look back. So the logic is working. The thing that isn't working is that the styling isn't working. And if you look, it hasn't got the site CSS. Let's stop this. Let's look. So that's saved. I'm going to try running it again. To build solution. I'm also going to open the console. I don't think... Okay, right, okay, yeah, no, it was what I thought it was. Okay, here's a lesson. This is a good thing that's happened. To get that to refresh, I pushed Control F5, so what happened, my browser had cached the CSS files, and it wasn't reloading the new ones. So I needed to do a refresh that ignored the cache, and so Control F5 does that, I think. The other thing is at some point I've set up my browser. Where is it? Disabled cache while DevTools is open. So I've got the cache disabled. So I'm not sure if it was the Control 5 or whether it was just the refresh because the developer tools are open. It disables the cache so it looks for the new. It always looks to the server and gets the new stuff. This is a really important thing. It always looks open. I'm not sure if it was cache while dev. Where the thing is, at some point I've set up my browser. Where is it? Disabled cache while DevTools is open. So I've got the cache disabled. So I'm not sure if it was the Control 5 or whether it was just the refresh because the developer tools are open. It disables the cache so it looks for the new. It always looks to the server and gets the new stuff. This is a really important thing to know because you will probably come across this problem if you're doing any kind of web development. So there you go, top tip. Different browsers are going to be slightly different. This is Chrome. So there we go. So is it live? Right. Yeah, so I can, there, it's working exactly as we wanted. So if I click it, it strikes it through. If I unclick it, it doesn't. I can refresh and it's there. Awesome. So style change if it's completed. Oh, I don't. Right. So I think we're going to make this progress bar as well today. Now, the progress bar, there is a Bootstrap class that is a progress bar, which we're going to use. Because this has got Bootstrap all in it, we can use it. It's fine. So that's going to go. So this is the table. I'm going to build the progress bar in our partial view, because our partial view is taking in information from the controller. It's taking the model in. So we're going to use information from that model. We're going to extend the model using the view bag, actually. And then this is going to render the progress bar. So the progress bar is going to need to know what's the percentage complete, basically. So what we'll do, actually, we'll do the logic first. I mean, it's obvious. So a progress bar, the progress bar that we're going to make has an attribute, HTML attribute, that is basically progress. And if it's set to 50%, then the progress bar is set to 50% full. And that's what we're going to be using. So to do that, this view needs to know what is the percentage number of items that are complete. And we work that out in the controller. And remember, we made a function getMyToDos. Now, getMyToDos is always called whenever we need to build the partial view to-do table. So remember how we used that? So if I look everywhere where we make this view, we're calling getMyToDos. So if we make the changes to this function, that will go through all our code, which is a reason why do you remember a lot of this code we'd kind of copied and pasted, but I said, you know what, we're using it several times, let's make a function for that. And that's one of the great things about like putting, segmenting your code like this is really helpful. So we need to do two things. We need to count how many to-dos we've got and how many to-dos are complete. So what I'm going to do, instead of just returning this straight away, I'm going to do my to-dos. I'm going to do my to-dos, let's call it, equals this thing. And that's what we'll return at the end. We'll return my to-dos. So the output of this function isn't changing. What we're going to do is we're going to put the percentage complete into something called the view bag, which I'll explain. To be honest, if you made it this far through these tutorials, you probably know what the view bag is, but I'm going to just explain it anyway. But for now, let's just quickly work out the percentage complete. So first, we want to count the total number. Is easy because this enumerable object, it's got a variable, just count, which we can use, or as a function count, which just counts them. So we can use that pretty easily. We don't need to manually do it. But to count the ones that are complete, I'm going to do complete count equals 0. Then for each So to do in my to-dos, if to do dot is done, then we increment complete count. So plus plus just adds one to it. So there we've got the number complete. Now we're going to use this thing called viewBag. And viewBag kind of sounds exactly like it is what it sounds like. It's a bag of stuff that if we add things to this bag in our controller, our view will be able to access that. Everything's going to be put in this bag and sent to our view in the header lines, depending if it's post or get. Depends how it's done, but that data is going to be sent to our view. Well, it might not actually work like that because it's going to be rendered. Yeah, not entirely sure I was right there, but somehow this information gets to our view so we can use it. So far, we've been using this model idea, which is a strongly typed thing. So IntelliSense knows what the model is. So that down here, we can use things like item.id, and it auto-completed that for us. And so like we can loop around var item in model, and because it knows model is a list of to-dos, all of this IntelliSense stuff works, and it's much better for figuring out if something's gone right or wrong. ViewBag isn't strongly typed. We can give any kind of type. It's going to end up as a string for us eventually, but we can put anything in here. It's a little bit lazy, but when you're adding just like one thing like this, I don't see a problem with it. What you should technically, a better way to do this would be to make a new class, a new model that's a view specific model that contains a collection of to-dos and that extra information that we need for the page. That would be the best practice. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to do it like this. But I am letting you know there's a better way. So viewBag% equals. We're going to want this as an int. Well, we don't need to do that. Let's not do that. Let's not cast it. So it's going to be 100 times. I am going to cast these to floats so that we don't end up with an integer division. Complete count divided by float. My to-dos dot count. So that just gives you, so that's giving you the number of elements in here in my to-dos. So that should give us the percentage complete. So let's have a look if that works. So let's do a, we're gonna put it in a div to be tidy. ID equals progress bar, and I'm just going to call it progress. No, I can't call it progress because, no, I can. It's fine. Progress bar to do. There we go. I was trying to make sure whatever I called it would be unique. Then let's have a paragraph where it says at viewBag dot percent. I'm going to put this in a bracket here because that tells this that the C# is in here. And then the percentage sign might cause problems if I didn't do that. So this should read that whatever the percent value is with a little percent sign. So let's run it. There we go. So we've got our percent complete up there. And as I change this, it updates correctly. Now we could... right, do you know what we're going to do? Is we're going to... I don't like all these decimal points here. So how do you round? We need to round this. We want to round this to an int. Is we're going to... I don't like all these decimal points here. So how do you round? We need to round this. We want to round this to an int. Let's see, math. I bet there's a round. Math round, rounds double to the nearest yeah, okay, we'll use this. Okay, so math round, that should round it. Let's run it again, see if that is a bit nicer. Yes, better. That looks nice, doesn't it? You don't want the point. Who cares if I'm doing that to do is giving me 0.1% extra progress. Cool. So now we want the progress bar. So the progress bar, this is something like you just have to look up and find, so to know that this existed. It's so what it is, it's a div with a class equals progress. There we go. Now notice how we're getting IntelliSense autocomplete, because we've got the Bootstrap CSS. That's what we're using. If you can actually go online and look for other Bootstrap templates to make your site look like different to what the site normally looks like. So the way that it works, the way I think it works, is that you have a progress div on the outside, and then the progress bar is the bar in the middle that's going to change size. And we give it a role equals progress bar. And then the style, this is basically going to be a width. Much padding between that, and I don't like that. All right, okay, let's do right. Okay, yeah, that isn't bad. I think that's pretty good. Let's have a look at these elements then. More tools, developer tools, elements. So where was this going to be? Right. We called it, what did we call it? We called it div. It'll be in the table div because, yeah, so progress bar do. So we've got the number that's 40 something %. So yeah, you can see the progress div is this whole thing. as you can see, look where it's highlighted, is the whole thing is the progress class, and the bar is that bit in the middle. That obviously the width is the percentage of this top one. Now what's quite nice is that if I maximize this, the size of the bar changes based on my window size. But it's still the right percent, and it works. So yeah. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So we can click that one off. Oh, that changes color when it's 100%. We could do that. I'm not going to. We totally could, because you would then, similarly to how we did the logic before. Where are we? So when we did this kind of logic, if item is done, we could do an if view.percent is 100, then change the color of the bar. But we're not going to do that right now. I think this is looking quite good. Do we need this? Do we need description and it is done? I'm going to get rid of them, because I don't think we do. Because I think people know, like, it's not useful information. So I think, for me, the way I like design is take away redundant stuff, because I don't think you need to see, take away redundant information. People need description. It is done. I'm going to get rid of them. Because I don't think we do. Because I think people know, like, it's not useful information. So I think, for me, the way I like design is take away redundant stuff, because I don't think you need to see, like, it's obvious. It's obvious that this is my to-do list. What does to it's got the title of the checklist. We could maybe have that. Why don't we do this? Stop this. Let's so we're going to do it here. We're going to do H2. Header 1 probably is a bit too. I'm just going to call it my to-do list. There. Then in this table, I didn't like that as it was there. I think that's better. Underneath. And I'm wondering, the thing with not knowing. So there might already be. What I'm wondering is if we can make something a bit smaller. I'm not. You know, I'm not, like, that's quite small text. It's quite nice. but there might be like a class that that's in Bootstrap that would fill that role nicely for us. But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to try and hold back on my OCD. So what does this look like? Do you need the number? Do you need But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to try and hold back on my OCD. So what does this look like? Do you need the number? Do you care if it's 54%? I don't think. I'm not going to go to anyone and say, oh, I'm 69% complete. The important thing is the bar. So let's just get rid of the number. So let's get rid of that number. So there we go. And I think that is a clean, nice to-do list. And I think one of the other things about this, which I hope we're not quite finished. I'm just checking the progress bar. We're not quite finished as of yet, because there are some security things to do with user authentication I want to sort out, which we'll do next time, which is probably quite a short video. In fact, it might be really quick to do it. I just got to remind myself of how you do it. So at the moment, we've got users, but we're not using any kind of authorization. So we've not told .NET like we only want authorized users to be able to use this and this. And it's pretty straightforward to do that. There's also something else we need to do with the way we're using these. So I'm actually looking through my notes from my lectures because I don't want to get this wrong. So basically, okay, I'm not going to, well. So the first thing we need to do, at the moment, all of our requests are happening over HTTP, whereas really we want to do this over HTTPS because it's more secure. We want to encrypt all this information that's being sent, basically. HTTP doesn't do that. So that's to do with our project settings. So we can click to do that. We do this. Go to our project. Right click. Probably properties, I think. Web. Right, okay, well, project URL. What we're going to be doing is changing this to HS. That's what this is doing is telling, this is just a project setting telling it what to launch when it does the browser, what to go to. What we add, the thing that really changes it. Let's cancel that. Right. Let's do it in here first. Okay, SSL enabled is what we want. True. Now we've got this, it's this URL. Properties. Now change that. There we go. That's what I was doing wrong. Okay, and then we should run it now. And you should always use HTTPS if you've got any kind of user, logins, really. So it's adding encryption, and it's avoiding things like man-in-the-middle attacks, where someone could, in theory, relay your communication, alter something, yeah. So if someone got your request somehow and then changed some information and then sent it along, that kind of stuff, this stops that from being possible because it's all encrypted. So that was the first thing. The next thing is that we need to actually tell ASP.NET to authorize which methods need authorization, and we do that through data annotations, basically. So we go to our to-do controller, and we go through here, and we can add authorize to. So if I click here and I do authorize, what this is saying is that a user needs to log in to perform this action. So now if I launch my index, this won't make a difference for us now because we're currently logged in. But if I log off and I click my to-do list, it's going to ask me to log in because the controller action that it tried to fire requires authorization. So that's stop. Now, what is better is instead of going through and putting authorize on just those methods that we want to be authorized, that you need to be authorized is because you might forget something, is to actually make the default so that you need to be authorized to do everything, and then use unauthorized as the method. And I forget how to do that, so I'm going to just quickly Google it. So it's to do with the web config. As the method, and I forget how to do that, so I'm going to just quickly Google it. So it's to do with the web config. So let's do it. Let's do a Google to make authorize default MVC. There we go. Good old stack. It's possible default behavior. Good old stack. It's possible default behavior. Good old stack. It's possible default behavior. Maybe not. trying to think. I'm looking for my lecture notes and my other thing because I definitely put this in a lecture, but I can't remember which lecture it was in. So sorry about this. This is what happens when I decide, oh yeah, we'll just do it now. So if you're on my course, the applications you're going to be doing are going to have different users as well with different like roles. So there's like even more to think about in that kind of idea.
के इस नए कंसेप्ट में आज हम सीखने वाले हैं कि हम कैसे इमेज या फिर कोई फाइल उसे हम कैसे अपलोड कर सकते हैं। तो आज हमें सीखना है कि कैसे हम इमेज को अपलोड कर सकते हैं और उसके साथ में हम ये भी सीखने से पहले अगर अभी तक आपने इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया हुआ है, आप इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब जरूर कीजिए। अगर आपको मेरी वीडियोस अच्छी लग रही हैं तो आप वीडियोस को लाइक कीजिए और कमेंट्स जरूर कीजिए और शेयर जरूर कीजिए, जिससे कि दूसरों का भी फायदा होगा और वो भी उसको आसानी से सीख सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये कॉमन चीज़ें।
Hey guys, let us start with creating a simple project in VS. Select new project, select web application, give it name as upload email demo, click on OK, select MVC. You can see our project is created with MVC folder architecture. So now in order to upload images, we need to store them at one place. So let us create one folder uploaded images in our solution. Right click on your solution, go to add new folder, give name. So we can save our images or store images into this folder. Now we are only 2 steps behind. In our project to upload images. These steps are creating a controller and its method to upload image, and second step is creating its respective view. So now let us create one controller upload. Go to controllers, right click. You can see here you can create controller. Select empty controller. Give name upload. As you can see, upload controller is created. Now let us write one method, save image. Let me delete this index. See, we need to write two methods for get and post. So let me copy this.